Penguin Random House Audio presents The Divine Miss Marble, A Life of Tennis, Fame, and Mystery by Robert Weintraub, read for you by Johnathan Mcclain. For Chris Carragher and Mitzi Morgan, with my thanks and appreciation for the port in a storm. As we acquire more knowledge, things do not become more comprehensible, but more mysterious. Albert Schweitzer. Preface. The Swiss Alps dominated the landscape. The mountains didn't know it was 1945 or that the world was at war. Those snow-capped heights were likewise disinterested in the drama playing out far below. On a winding mountain road, a sports car skidded around tight switchbacks, the driver, whose story this is, fighting to keep the vehicle from plunging into the distant valley below. Not far behind, another car in hot pursuit and gaining. The driver of the first car was an international icon, a tennis great who had won the sport's most important title, the Wimbledon Championship, 6 years before, the last time the tournament was played before World War II interfered. She was also a four-time U.S. national champion and had accumulated every accolade worth having in the pre-war era of sports. She was renowned for her oratory, her singing voice, her appearance, her style, her closeness with the elite of Hollywood and Wall Street, and her optimistic, winning personality. She had become especially famous after coming back from 2 years away from the sport, stricken down by disease in what had seemed the prime of her career, only to fight her way back to the top. She was just about the last person anyone would expect to be driving for her life down a European mountain, protecting evidence of Nazi war crimes on the seat beside her, squinting into the inky blackness, afraid to slow down even if it meant a fiery death. Soon the other car forced her to stop. There was a confrontation. The precious evidence she had stolen a short time earlier, the reason she claimed to have come to the mountains in the first place, was taken from her by force. Alice turned and ran, her breath ragged in the high elevation. A shot rang out. A blow to the back, a burning sensation, and then nothing. What in the world was she doing there? For that matter, was she really there at all? Alice Marble was the foremost female tennis player in the years before World War II. As the Wimbledon Lawn Tennis Museum wrote about her in its Pocket History of Champions, women's tennis can be put into two eras, before Alice Marble and after. She created the women's game in its aggressive modern style. Hardly a contemporary match report or profile was written about Alice that failed to note that she played like a man. That is, her ferocious serve and volley style and powerhouse elan were so overwhelming that only her occasional lack of control could stop her. Using her next-level athleticism and an unreturnable serve, Alice swept to 18 victories in what today would be called Grand Slam events, the U.S. Nationals and Wimbledon. She never played the big tournaments in France or Australia for monetary reasons. That number includes multiple women's and mixed doubles titles, all but one in the 5-year window between 1936 and 1940. Then the war forced Alice into quite different activities. She was an outsized figure during this time. Alice Marble, the Garbeau of tennis courts, the blonde bombshell of her day. She caused a stir by playing in shorts rather than the skirts then in favor. The press was quick to remind their readers that her legs are like 2 columns of polished mahogany, bare to the knees, her figure perfect, as one dazzled reporter wrote. Miss Marble looks lovely even when she has just come off the court, thought the well-known English writer Charles Graves in a typical description that focused on Alice's physical presence. Few girls can do that. On the court itself, you see how beautifully built she is. She walks like a prize fighter. But Alice was just as famous for the times when she was looking and feeling far from her best. A series of illnesses led to a collapse on the historic red clay of Roland Garros Stadium in Paris, which culminated in a diagnosis of tuberculosis that seemed to swerve her budding career into an abutment. Sidelined and committed to a sanatorium, she was forgotten for nearly 2 years, until a dramatic comeback lifted her to the very top. Her revival to capture victory at the 1936 U.S. National Championships lifted Alice to new heights of popularity, at one stage receiving roughly 500 fan letters a day from admirers who asked her for health tips, relationship advice, or her hand in marriage. Her combination of on-court excellence and off-court style had her greatly in demand and opened up many doors. She was a regular on radio programs, as an interviewee, as a guest host, and as a singer, where her contralto voice won enough plaudits that she was asked to sing at posh nightclubs in New York and London. Her writing ability was outstanding, especially for someone who gave up a college education for the courts. She contributed pieces to newspapers and magazines with great frequency, and even was part of the original writing staff for the Wonder Woman comic book. She developed a speech based on her will to win and relentlessly toured the country to deliver it. Her eye for fashion and love of sporting it led to a side career as a designer of athletic outfits, as well as clothes made for everyday use. A natural athlete such as women's tennis had never seen, Alice had risen from humble beginnings in San Francisco to conquer the sport of royalty. Her father passed away when she was still a child, and the family lived on the edge of poverty thereafter. She found solace in sport. As a teen, Alice was known throughout the city for her baseball ability, as well as her regular gig shagging fly balls as an unofficial mascot of the San Francisco Seals, the best local 9 in the time before the major leagues moved west. Upon discovering tennis, Alice found a home among the municipal players at the courts in Golden Gate Park. Years later, a London Times writer surveying Alice's career would note that the rough-and-ready apprenticeship stood her in good stead when she came to meet more artificially trained players. Tennis was a sport for the idle rich, the country club said, the people who could compete without the bother of earning a living at the game, for it was strictly amateur in that era. Alice didn't fit that description in any way, but her hard-scrabble beginnings served her well when she started moving up in the rankings. She was the top-rated player in California before she turned 17 and was competing for the U.S. national title, the forerunner to today's U.S. Open, on her 18th birthday. She traveled east in 1931 for the first time to play the swells of the sport at its highest level. She fared poorly, but came away convinced a top coach would help her reach the pinnacle. She found that coach in Eleanor Teach Tennant, one of the most colorful and successful, if overlooked, figures in tennis history. She, too, had willed her way out of the anonymity of the poor San Francisco streets, becoming the foremost teacher of the game in Southern California, with a clientele stuffed with famous film actors and actresses, the top names of the day: Gable, Flynn, Dietrich, Lombard. It was that last one, Carole Lombard, the queen of the screwball comedy, who hung Eleanor's nickname on her. Lombard was a serious player, though when Tennant instructed her to attack the ball higher or get in better position, she would respond with a sarcastically sweet, "Yes, teacher, dear." After enough of those, Lombard shortened it to Teach, and the nickname stuck. Eleanor was Teach Tennant after that. Alice and Eleanor got together and formed one of the most successful coach-student relationships ever seen in individual sports. Their closeness went beyond the typical athlete-coach model. far beyond it.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?